Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic
Books, the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, comics we want to read, and everything in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week. And we're back at it again.
Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
So this week we did Fantastic Four.
1, 2, 3, 4.
4. There you go. You said it much more concise than I did. I said like walking, like 1, 2,
3, 4.
3, 4. But yeah. So it's written by Grant Morrison, and the art was by Jay Lee. And now I don't know. Have you read a bunch of Grant Morrison stuff before, or do you know anything he's
Not particularly, but we read the We 3.
That's right. I forgot we did read We 3.
And that was really good.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I looked at his overall, I was like, oh, I think I've seen a couple of these. So
this issue? You mean this series?
no, not this
stuff.
series. Just I was like, oh yeah, I feel like I've seen some of his writings before.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Comics, so.
Well, he did Final Crisis for DC, and he did like a whole run on Batman for like 4 years, like right around the time right after Final Crisis. I think he did that because in Final Crisis, Batman gets shot with Omega beams from
Spoilers,
dude. 10 years ago. If you didn't read it then, that's on you. If you can figure out what the fuck Final Crisis is about, feel free to tell me. But in it, things happen.
I assume a lot of it's the final of crises, and a lot of things happen, and people die.
Apparently, yes. But
So
yeah,
they're doing that on the CW right now too, and it was like,
well, yeah, that's
right.
cool because that's the original Infinite Crisis, or Crisis on Infinite Earth.
Yeah,
that's what it is. So that's cool. That was a cool story, which we're totally going to do. That's some hard continuity.
yeah.
I've tried to read that like 5 times already, and like I tried to read it when I first got to the comic book store, and I was like, I don't understand any of this shit. And then I read more like DC stuff. I'm like, I think I'm ready for Final Crisis or Crisis on Infinite Earths. And I picked it up again. I'm like, still don't know what's going on. Don't know any of this shit.
So we'll read that one in like a year or two.
Well, what we should do first is read 4 years of Flash, but 4 years before, that crisis. And then we care about the Flash. And then, so yeah, it doesn't really matter at all, except that the Flash dies. Like the Barry Allen Flash. First time he had died, so it was kind of like a big fucking thing. But other than that, like, I mean, they collapsed all their universes into one to make it easier for everybody, and then they like went on to expand it like them, immediately after that. So I don't know, they keep collapsing and expanding and collapsing. So it's a weird thing. But anyway, that's fucking DC shit. Back to fun, Fantastic Four, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, also Jay Lee is the artist for this, and have you read anything by Jay Lee?
I didn't recognize the name at all.
Okay, Jay Lee is like one of my favorite artists. He's I mean, there's no one that draws like him. It's super like I don't know, like it's super liney, but very like creepy as well. Like everybody's creepy looking.
Oh yeah, I can definitely say like all the characters had like an odd vibe to them, and I really like some of the coloring work in this too.
Mm-hmm.
When it was going between like I guess reality and perceived reality, and some of the tones like the really dark grays and vibrant colors in that, as opposed to like in the Fantastic Four or in the actual reality too.
In reality, yeah, or in the I get what you're saying. I did find that this was very much like so there's Grant Morrison where he's like coherent and has a full story, like, yes, this is exactly what I want to tell, and it makes sense to everybody, including the reader. And then there's some Grant Morrison that's like, I like what you're putting out there, like I appreciate the creativity, but I ain't following, and this was like borderline a little bit that, only because it is a contained 4-story thing that drops you in the middle of something that feels like it's a story that's already been going on for a long time. Like when it starts off, it drops you off with the Thing just fighting guys on Yancey Street. and it seems like he's already mad about something that you don't know why. And the police are all mad at him and you don't know why. And then like he goes back to the tower and Johnny Storm's a dick and you don't know why. Like,
yeah, it's like like if you know the Fantastic Four a little bit, you're like, okay, well, Johnny and Ben are at each other because
yeah, but it seemed more than that. It wasn't like taunting. It was like we hate each other.
Yeah,
for some reason, and like he drops you in the middle. I felt like, did I miss like an issue of this or something? Like, you know, it felt like there was more. And then also like in the first, okay, so we should say in the first issue, like the way this is broken up, because it's 4 issues, obviously 1, 2, 3, 4 is the name of the series. It's 4 issues long. Each issue kind of deals with each member of the Fantastic Four. So the first one deals with the Thing, or Ben Grimm, however you want to call him. And then the others, like the second one deals more with Susan. The third one deals more with Johnny. And the fourth one deals more with
Reed.
All of them, but Reed.
But yeah, Reed's the focal point. But yeah, they all have their conclusions.
And so the first one, like I said, it kind of drops you off in the middle of something that's already been going on. Like Reed's been gone for a month already.
Yeah.
And when they said gone, he's just like in a room locked away. You don't know why. And then, I mean, I don't know about you, but I felt like Susan Storm was a bit of a non-trusting spouse. I don't know. She felt like some of the stuff she was feeling was like, okay, maybe this happens more often than it should, and you only see this one time. But if you're married to, you know, the smartest guy in the world,
the Albert Einstein of our time,
or more than that, whatever, then you would think, she would be like, okay, I'm going to trust he knows what's going on and what's happening. I mean, they don't really mention other times he's like done it to this extent or whatever, other than when he's working on problems or something. But like, she just doesn't know what he's working on, and she's like, you know what, I'm like thinking about other guys or what, you know, thinking about not him or whatever. Which is when conveniently Submariner shows up and he's like, hello.
Well, hello there.
But yeah, you wanna talk about the first issue there?
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, Ben's upset and he goes back to all the police officers were like, you trashed this area. He's like, okay, I was trying to save you guys from the whatever
it was, yeah.
And he's like, fine, screw you. And he's upset because same kind of thing, because he's like, Reed has been kind of in his own room and space and not talk to anybody for.
But it didn't even feel like that. It felt like he was mad for something that has always been a thing, which was he can't fix him.
Yeah.
Like, he's mad that the world doesn't appreciate him, and he's mad that Reed isn't fixing him when he seems to be able to fix.
That's what I'm saying. But he's mad
stuff.
that Reed is off away again in his little space, and he's like, he's not coming around to any resolutions for anything.
Right. But the reason why I said it's kind of weird is because, like, it feels like this drops you in. It feels like this would be the storyline after the first story arc or the 5th story arc of the original Fantastic Four.
I guess
you know what I mean? Like this is 40 years after the Fantastic Four is taking place, so I would think, in my mind, he's already given up to the fact that he's going to become a guy again. You know what I mean? So why would he be pining over that if it's been 40 years since then?
I don't know. I understand this one's self-contained, but I guess I've read enough Fantastic Four storylines that in my head, the way I perceive it is Ben is always like, on the back of his mind is like, when is Reed going to fix me? And
okay.
I don't feel like he doesn't really. I'm sure there's lines where he accepts it,
yeah,
or he's not thinking about it. But I've read several of the stories like the Ultimate Fantastic Four. He has parts where he's like, when are you going to fix this? You promised me you were going to fix this.
Yeah.
I mean, he likes beating up people, and that's fun because he was a big football jock guy. But that's always kind of on the back of his mind, I think.
Yeah, see, like, to me, that was on the back of his mind in the first 10 years of the Fantastic Four. And since then, I don't think it's on his mind anymore. Or, like, if it is, there's, like, an obvious, like, retcon happening or a retelling, like Ultimate Fantastic Four or something like that, where we're, like, bringing this up again, but it's not really a thing in common in like modern day comics, because, like I said, it's been 50 years, 60 years now since the original, and it's kind of like,
get over it.
Yeah, it's kind of like Jesus, Ben.
You're gonna be Rocky.
Yeah,
the rest of your life.
Exactly.
Just deal with it.
Yeah, there's some. You just be happy, all right? Just be happy you can move. There's some people starving in China, all right? Be happy with what you have. Anyway, but yeah, so I thought that was like kind of, it was weird, except once I realized what he was doing, I was like, okay, I'm gonna like just allow this to be, okay, this is a retelling of like year 5 or something of the Fantastic Four. Like an ultimate story that they forgot to tell back in the day, kind of thing. And you were also saying before we started recording that this is kind of like they bring back a bunch of villains that you.
Yeah, this is like Rogue's Gallery of. Obviously, they don't have as many like that you can name off the top of your head like Batman, but yeah, it's like a Rogue's Gallery story. Right. It's kind of like their longest.
Well, they bring back the main, like their first villain, Mole Man, who doesn't really ever.
Mole Man's always there. Mole Man's an annoying villain.
Yeah, but he's like a joke villain. I mean, like Doctor Doom obviously is the main villain.
Yeah,
and we should say like Doctor Doom is actually like constructing this plan and getting the. It's kind of like Hush. Now I think about it, there's an ultimate villain who gets all these other villains to like fuck with the other people in all the Fantastic Four, the heroes, to try to get them to fail or die or whatever, and then or like leave and abandon Reed, and then he fails in the process of that. Yeah. But he doesn't realize who he's fucking with, just like Hush did with Batman.
That's right.
So,
that was a cool lead up. So going back, so Ben storms off from being like, oh, Reed's doing his thing, and then Johnny pisses him off because Johnny's being a dick. And so Ben's in like one of their rooms where Reed has been like working on things, and there's a Doom bot, and he's like, stupid Doom bot kind of thing. And it like wakes up, and it's Dr. Doom talking through the Doom bot, and
it's like, I'll give you what you want.
Yeah, put on this gauntlet of mine. It'll go around your hand, and then something will happen.
Yeah, like he says like I'll make you whole again or something, right?
Yeah.
Or like something like
or
that.
No, he says that Reed has not been honest with him, and he will tell him the whole truth to things. Yeah, so he puts it on, and then that like transports him to Latveria, and Doom's like, yeah, so let me tell you the real truth.
I'm actually a good guy.
Yeah.
And Reed is an asshole. Which he's not actually wrong about that. Reed is kind of an asshole.
He's kind of a dick.
But like in a brainy way. Like, like those smarty pants, the way they act towards people.
Yeah. He's an a-hole.
He's condescending. A little bit.
He's an a-hole because you're not on his intelligence level, and sometimes that annoys him.
Well, he's got to speak like a child to you, like, or he's got to speak like you're a child, So, so basically he makes it so he cures Ben.
Yeah, he tells Ben to go up the staircase. He goes up the staircase, and then that's one of the cool things.
It's like a time machine, though, right? Or like another dimension.
Basically, I feel like it, and it felt like another alternate reality, because that's why I was saying the colors change, and it's like a kind of like a wash of grays, but it's really vibrant still.
Right.
And and Ben, he's in a hospital bed.
Yeah. Well, no. He.
He gets ported back, and he's like going to the Baxter building. He's like, whoa, I'm normal. What's going on?
Yeah, and then he gets hit by a car. Right. And then it's like, oh, now you're human, and you have to watch out for traffic, dumb fuck. So, so immediately he gets like hit by a car after the Baxter building people won't let him in. They're like, I know who Ben Grimm is. You get the fuck out of here. And so then he he wakes up at the hospital. He's got no arm. They had to amputate his arm, and it's like this. He's like, what the heck? So like, then basically that's kind of like the end.
Yeah, and that's
of issue 1.
Yeah, and the last thing you see is Dr. Doom crushing like a clay sculpture of Ben being like one down.
Yes, and that was the other thing. It was very like chess or like game piece oriented.
Oh yeah,
there was like a lot of like statues of them. So like each person, It seemed like Reed had statues too, or something as well.
Yeah, they were like.
It was like they knew they were playing chess. I mean, it would be nice for Reed to just be like, "Hey guys, like shit's gonna happen, but don't worry, I'm working on it. That's why I'm in here." That's all he had to. I mean, maybe he needed them to act normally. Maybe that's why he couldn't say anything. But wouldn't you tell your wife and brother-in-law and best friend, like, I'm playing interdimensional chess with Doom and it involves your lives? So just...
Unless it affects the outcome.
Well, that's what I said. Maybe he couldn't, but it seems like a dick move a little bit. But yeah, so then like that's pretty much the end of issue 1 is like it's about Ben like getting to be human again and then realizing, hey, it kind of sucks to be vulnerable again. He gets hit by a car and loses his arm. So then the second issue, which has a great cover. I love this cover. I kind of wanted it as a poster. It is of Submariner or Namor, whichever you prefer, embracing and making out with Susan Storm. So, and I liked this issue a lot. The art was cool because it's like Susan's finally like kind of fed up at the Baxter building. She leaves and goes to talk to Alicia, who I believe...
It's Ben's blind girlfriend.
So once again, I have not read Fantastic Four in quite a while. So I was like, who the fuck is this lady? and also like they don't really mention that she's blind or anything either. So I wasn't like realizing that, and then I realized, wait, that's Ben's
that's
girlfriend.
True.
I'm like, isn't she blind? Like,
yeah, they don't awkwardly be like, hey, you're blind, right? But it's a little context clues like, oh yeah, I like it when it rains. I can hear this better.
Right? Yeah, that's why. Like, as I'm reading the conversation between her and Susan, I'm like, oh yeah, she's blind or whatever. So it was. That's why I'm saying, like, he kind of just throws you into this universe, like you know what's going on, or this storyline, and I like that, but I also was like, I kind of wanted if there was like a little before sentence or something, like this is what's been going on in the Fantastic Four,
at Ben's girlfriend's place, or
or something. Yeah, that was the other thing. Like, I like the art, but sometimes I didn't know where we were, like so they didn't say a lot of like. At the Baxter Tower or at this place.
Yeah, because she technically takes the Fantastic Car and leaves at the end of the first one, or in the beginning of the first one technically.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't know that she's not back at the Baxter building technically in the beginning of this this issue. So
right, and so I like an episode, but yeah, it was a little unclear at sometimes, but I did like the way that. It portrayed like Susan sitting there at a table with Alicia, and she's invisible, and she's crying, and all you can see is that they keep zooming in on the tears. Now I thought that was cool, except when it started raining, I was like, "It's a little. Is she crying or is it rain?" Because like it shows raining in the background, and then it would like zoom in on invisibleness and just a teardrop. Going down invisibleness. So it's kind of like, wait, is that the window or is that her face? But then once I think the issue was actually I was reading it on the digital comic and I was zooming into, you double tap it to zoom into each panel instead of just the whole page. So when I was zooming in, it was like, wait, what is this? But then when I zoomed out and I looked at the whole page, I was like, oh, like I totally get what they're trying to say. So it might just be that I was reading it in a weird format that it wasn't meant to be read in, kind of.
Yeah, because I didn't get that at all.
Yeah. Did you read it? You read it like
I read full pages.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you double tap on it, you actually get like each panel one at a time. So that would be weird if you're like, "Hi, Susan, how's it going?" And then just like cut to
cricket.
Yeah, cut to drop on screen. I'm like, that's weird. So that's. I think it was just the format I was reading it in. That was the weird part, not the actual way they did it, because they're writing it for comic book. In 2000 or whenever this came out. So, and we should say like this is from either the early 2000s or the late 90s because it's the Marvel Knights series. And yeah, I think this is before like, Grant Morrison was fully, taking the reins at like DC and stuff in the late 2000s. So, so he's kind of jumping to other companies and whatnot. But yeah, so Susan's crying. She's sad. Alicia's like, you'll figure it out. Don't worry.
Yeah, things all things have always worked out. Like that is weird that you guys haven't talked in so long, but you'll work it out.
Yeah, and that's basically what she reveals that like, or Susan reveals that like Reed's been locked away for like a month or something crazy.
Yeah.
And the other thing I like the art on Reed, like he's so ugly looking because he draws him like constantly falling apart, like or like stretching into weird shapes, faces and stuff. Like he's and they kind of expand on why he looks like this, but there's a lot of times where his face looks like it's being hit by an invisible baseball bat or something, and it's kind of like wrapping around in weird, poses. It's just his head though, not like the rest of his body. So it's kind of like cartoony, but then it's like disturbing because of the way Jay Lee draws, like his art style. But
yeah, all the other panels look very chiseled, and then it's like abstract.
Yeah, kind of like that. So, yeah,
they're talking a long time. It rains. It keeps raining harder and harder throughout this time frame, and they're talking. And she's also like you were saying before. She's kind of like, I don't know why I'm with Reed, maybe because these kind of things happen.
I'm like, what kind of wife is this?
Yeah,
that's why I'm like, this ain't a 60-year wife. This is a 5-year wife or something. I'm like, he's kind of not paying attention to me anymore. I'm like, it's ride or die. All right, it's death do us part.
Exactly. Yeah, the moment and that was kind of that pivotal too, because she was having second thoughts, and then you see a panel of like Doom crushing her statue, her little clay statue or whatever, and it's like, is that all it took? Is like for
that's what I'm saying. But to be fair, he did throw. I mean, not a lot of people could resist the temptation of Submariner, because what happens after he crushes that?
That's true. As soon
she
as
walks through the door of her apartment or whatever, or their house. I don't know where they. I mean, I guess it's her apartment or her and Reed's apartment. I don't know.
No, it's Alicia and Ben's place.
Oh,
because
okay.
then Alicia's like, hold on, it's been raining harder, and now it doesn't sound like normal rain. What is that sound? And who comes? Yeah.
Oh, okay. So then Submariner shows up, and he's like, well, hello, and he's like, in his Speedos or whatever, and she's like, I'm married. That's like, he didn't say anything.
That's true. He just was
she was already like, I'm gonna fuck you, and then she just had to say, in her out loud, so it seemed like she was being,
That's true. That was kind of an awkward line for him just to show up at the door and be like, hello, Sue.
Yeah, that's what he always wears. It's not like he was wearing a thong this time or something, like a thong Speedo. It was just his regular Speedo. So why did she automatically go to, but I'm married? Come on, Sue. Be stronger than that. Your man can stretch anything. They never bring that up in comics, That's the comic that Kevin Smith's going to write about the Fantastic Four. It's going to be about how Reed Richards can grow his dick to any length. So, but anyway, so yeah, and it was weird because Namor wasn't really there to like. It didn't seem like he was there to like. He was there to try to seduce her and take her away, but not like against her will. Like he wasn't like a bad guy per se. He wasn't like, I'm going to take you to my kingdom in Atlantis and you're coming regardless. Yeah, no, it was for sure, as if you want me, I'm here.
Yeah.
But I would never do anything bad or whatever. I'll show you some stuff or whatever. But
and so then that's kind of the end. That's where that one ends.
Yeah. I think there's some like stuff with Johnny, but I can't remember.
But that kind of leads into the next one because that's Johnny's story.
And Johnny's just kind of dumb. And like he's just like flame on all the time. That's all he does. Johnny's
kind of and he's being a dick to his girl that he's dating there too, because they're like driving in a hot rod and he's his hair is on fire and she's like, Johnny, can you turn that off? Because like I'm getting 3rd-degree burns over here.
Yeah, he like literally. It says he gave her 3rd-degree burns while they had sex. I'm like, yeah, it can't feel good. Like, I mean, I know some people are into weird shit, but most people aren't into getting 3rd-degree burns while fucking. So.
I've heard of hot sex, but come on.
Come on, people. But yeah. So I know the 3rd issue. So yeah, it kind of this is kind of a little bit in the second and going into the third, but it's like Johnny is on a date. Like he's like, I'm fed up with this place. And he goes on a date with some girl and it's him like being a hot rod, hot shot, other things that start with hot in them. And then, he sees like, what is it? Is it Mole Man that comes up first, or
he feels like there's an earthquake, and then it kind of seems like there's something that pops up and looks like kind of like a mole person, and he's like, whoa, and so he goes back to the Baxter building. He's like, take the hot rod, sweetheart, or whatever.
Sugar tits, take it.
And and then it looks like he goes flying towards the Baxter building, flame on or whatever, and he goes flying, and but then it starts raining crazy there too, and
then like Mole Man pops out, right? Like
it's like a like a Mole Man like helper creature.
No, but like doesn't Mole Man like come up?
Yeah, he comes. Mole Man comes up too. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like, his helper creatures. He's like, "Hey, hold on, kid," or whatever, and then like the chasm opens up and Mole Man appears, and then it's raining so hard. Oh no, isn't that where Namor like actually makes him like soaked so he can't light on fire anymore, and he falls down?
Yeah, I think he knocks him down with the rain first.
Yeah, it's like Namor and Sue show up where Johnny's kind of fighting Mole Man, and then Namor makes the rain harder, and then obviously Johnny's being fire gets put out by the rain, and then he can't fly.
Yeah.
So then he falls down in the chasm that Mole Man had made, and then and then it's him and Alicia, which I was like, where'd Alicia come from? I guess she was just walking on the street, fell in the hole.
Because Mole Man also says like that was part of what he wanted was her,
right?
So maybe he stole her in between that time that Sue went.
To be fair, he's pragmatic. He's like, look, no regular woman's gonna want me. Let's get a blind chick. All right, we gotta get the
That's
one.
True.
That...
And Mole Man was extra disgusting.
Yeah, they put like weird lumps on his face.
He looked like a giant nutsack.
Yeah, that's very true. So if she likes Ben Grimm, maybe she'll put up with Mole Man as well. So hard
and rocky to like just soft and squishy and
mole-ish. And maybe
like he's shapes.
Yeah, he's a shape for sure. A couple different kinds of shapes. And maybe he's blind too because he's Mole Man. And maybe he was like, I'm going to blind, if she's going to live underground with me.
He got them little funky glasses to keep the light out. So,
and I mean, if she's going to live underground with me, she's not going to be able to see anyway. So she's fine. It's perfect. So yeah, like they're trapped down there. And then what happens?
Mole Man captures them because of Namor's help, and so they're all kind of revealing a little bit of the plan. Like Namor is like, Sue, come away with me.
Oh, that's right, yeah. And she's like, but I can't.
Yeah, and then
I'm married.
Mole Man's like, well, Alicia's gonna come with me because that's what I wanted, and then Johnny will be like my slave.
Oh yeah, that's
while I'm
right.
down here because I'm gonna make it horrible for him. And then that's when things start to kind of tweak a little because Namor's like, well, wait a minute. Like, slave? Johnny's
he's my brother-in-law, so...
Johnny's a piece of crap, and he's, like, my foe, but...
Yeah.
Like, he's not going to be a slave.
But he's going to be my brother-in-law if Sue agrees.
Yeah.
And Sue's... I mean, this is going to be my wife now.
This is going to happen.
Now I'm going to hear this every night about how I let Johnny die or be the slave of Mole Man, so...
And then... So Mole Man's like, I don't think so. Do you remember Doom promised us he made this plan?
That's right. That's when they reveal, it's Doom doing all this stuff. And then it doesn't like a big mechanical Dr. Doom basically break water right then. It was in the water stirring.
Yes.
And it comes out into the harbor and it's like, a giant mechanical colossus.
Right before that comes out, that was one of the cool parts because Mole Man and Namor are arguing about the plan because Mole Man's like, this needs to go exactly how Doom said because he wants all of his shit.
Right.
And then Namor's like, well, no, actually, that's not how this is gonna work. And he's like, you want to be underground? Learn to swim. And he breaks the ground, and that's when all the water comes.
He's like, Tool, learn to swim.
Yeah, that was actually one of the coolest little panels from this, I thought.
That was cool. Yeah, he just breaks the ground and like basically drowns off. he just murders all of the mole people, which I'm like, they're just little mole kids. They don't know that their dad's evil or whatever. I mean, it's not their fault, but Namor doesn't give a fuck. So.
And then that's when there's a gigantic Doom bot that comes up
like
out
a big
of the
iron colossus in the shape of Doom, and that's when you realize, or when they realize that like, oh, Doom's behind all of this, and so, that's the end of the third issue?
Yeah, that's the end of the third issue.
So then the fourth issue is like, okay, now that they all know, they're like, okay, we must go. Well, first off, we got to save Ben and figure out where the fuck he is, because he's been like gone with his arm in a dimension, his arm missing in another dimension. So they go and they find him in the dimension. They go to Latveria.
Latveria, and there's it's basically it is a machine that takes you there. They learn. So
yeah, they realize, oh, the bot took him there, because they like go to the scene where Ben like kicked the bot apart, and then like, oh, what? And this is like some kind of, if you're a Harry Potter fan, a port key to Latveria, a teleport key. So and he, so they all go there except Reed. Reed is still in his room, not doing anything that other than weird pictures of his face contorting and looking very anguished and like he's got all these cables and shit. It's very like a Japanese horror movie or some shit where like, we're going to hook all these cables to someone's face and like Guyver or some shit. Like it's crazy. Or like that movie Hardware where it's like machine integrating into person. But yeah, so they go there and they like realize Ben's in. Do they talk to Doom first and that's how they find out where Ben is, or?
No, because Doom is basically in the mind of
he's
the
in his
Doom
own
bot. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. So then they go to the dimension. They're like, hey, you can be Ben again if you just like put this iron hand on. And then he does, and he's Ben again.
Yeah.
So he's Ben with the glove on.
And the whole reason Doom doesn't stop them, we get like one little panel of it, and then they go and save him, is because Doom has like Reed reached out with his mind to Doom, and they had started to have like a mini conversation.
So it's distracting.
him, exactly.
So that's kind of when you figure out like, oh, like Reed's in on all this. Like he knows what Doom was doing, and he kind of like has been playing like 4-dimensional chess with Doom.
Yeah, Doom says, I've destroyed your whole family. You see, they're all in shatters now, and I've won. So it doesn't matter whatever you're doing in your little area, but it's time to face facts.
Yeah, and then Reed's like,
Yeah, Doom says that we've been playing chess, and Reed's like, well, yeah, we have, and you think you've won, but I'm actually basically been one step ahead of you. And Doom says, no, the game is mine, Reed. And Reed says, not necessarily. I've been here with you the last few hours, but I had a secret weapon. And basically it's that Doom didn't realize that Reed would think outside the box, and his secret weapon is that he can stretch every part of his body, including his mind.
His brain.
And so he stretched his brain to
give him like more synapses and stuff.
So like he can think more than a normal person.
Yeah.
And Doom.
So fuck you, Doom. You ain't smart. You ain't shit, Doom. I can expand not only my dick, but my brain. My brain as well. And
if only that had been the line.
That would be amazing if that was the line. If somehow that could be the line, I would be very happy with that. But no, this is Morrison, not Kevin Smith. So a little bit more heady. Yeah. So like basically he's like, I'm already like, you're one step ahead of me. I'm like 10,000 steps ahead of you because I'm like a genius on top of a genius on top of a genius because I made my brain stretch so much and get so big.
Yeah, so Doom just gets pissed off and has his robot basically start to it's gonna destroy everything. So then his
Colossus robot.
Yeah.
And then they all fight the robot.
Fight it, and
they go back to New York and then fight the big robot. And then
Namor agrees to help fight, and then he kisses So
oh yeah, fuck yeah. He was
they
like,
have their little like,
hold
well,
on a
yeah,
second.
well, we can do this, but first,
yeah, and then that he's just laying the groundwork. He's like, one day you'll be like, yeah. So you got to make out with her so she knows what kissing with Namor is like.
yeah, this is just a taste of what your life could
and
be
it
like.
ain't like smacking with a fish, all right? So, but yeah, so Namor does that, and then he helps him fight, and then Johnny just fucking tears that robot apart. He's just like, because Namor stops the rain, basically.
Yeah.
And so it makes it so Johnny can
Flame
actually
back
flame
on.
flame on, and then yeah.
Yeah,
so the robot gets torn apart.
Yeah, and Sensu tells him, they break it apart, and Doom's like still trying to talk his way out of it, and Sue's like, shut the fuck up, like this is over. And then Reed pops out of the room finally. He's like, yeah, look, see, then he was like, see, that's the reason I was in there.
I planned the whole time.
We're all good family again, right?
Yeah, totally. One big, happy, Fantastic Four family. And then that's the end, right?
Yeah, basically.
So
the resolution like real filled up where everybody's like, oh, okay, well, we're all good again.
We're cool with that. Like, I'd be like, that's not how a family would really be. I've had family fights, and it has nothing. It does no quick resolution happens like that. But yeah, I mean, it was obviously supposed to be like a quick 4-shot. Like you got to have this big. He's trying to fit a lot of story into 4 issues, so he kind of starts it in the middle of a story and ends it quickly. But I give him props for trying to do such a crazy story in such little time, like in such little issues. Yeah. So, yeah. Anything else you wanted to hit on?
No, I'll go back to the art again because I like you were saying there were definitely like different parts to the art, and I thought that was kind of unique about it because I had most Fantastic Four ones I've seen are very straightforward through, or there's like two. There's like the Fantastic Four versus the Frightful Four or something, so it's like dark and gritty, and then yeah. And this was kind of cool because like the Fantastic Four, it was almost like they had classic suits too because it was like blue and white. It was a nice
well, I think this was actually supposed to be like a callback to early Fantastic Four, because like once again, if this is supposed to be the 60 years later Fantastic Four, it didn't make any sense why everybody would still be the way they are.
Yeah.
But if it's supposed to be 5-year Fantastic Four, then it's like,
oh,
it makes sense. It's kind of like Batman Year One or something. Like, okay, he's gonna do some things he wouldn't normally do because this is his first year of Batman. Same as this, except he didn't call it, Fantastic Four Year 5 or whatever, or Year 1, because like
maybe that's what it was. It wasn't really Fantastic Four 1, 2, 3, 4 like the 4 parts. It was
maybe it's the 4th year.
4th year.
Oh, maybe
I don't know.
he might be onto something there. But yeah, generally with Grant Morrison, you're always going to get something interesting, even if it's something weird, and you're like, I don't know if I like this. You're still like, well, he like pushes boundaries and makes me think about stuff at least. So it might not be what you're expecting, but it's always like at least thought provoking, or like, oh, this is interesting storyline. But I think this was like a pretty good hit as far as it's a little bit like that, like. It's a little bit weird just the way it has to fit into 4 issues, and it's such a big, crazy story that, like I said, it does start in the middle of, like, they're already mad at each other and stuff's already going on, and you're supposed to already know who all these people are and bad guys are. They're not going to set up anything, which is very un-Marvel. Marvel is like, hey, new reader.
Let me give you the whole background.
Yeah, did you know? Like our X-Men issue that we did, or that book we did, where it's like, let's set up 5 issues of Kitty Pryde's beginning story just so you can read the 1 issue of Days of Future Past and then be like, oh, I know who Kitty Pryde is, even though I'm like, I kind of knew who she was already, but I didn't need the 5 issues before they go to hell for some reason, or like just weird stuff. So this was very much unlike normal Fantastic Four or normal Marvel stories where they're like, let's spoon feed you this stuff, and then that way you'll enjoy it as like a kid. This was kind of like Grant Morrison being like, yeah, I'll know this stuff. This is year 4 or year 5 or whatever it is. And here's a cool story that you didn't know happened then, kind of thing. And it involves all the main bad guys that you've seen up until then, kind of thing. Because it wasn't all their bad guys, it was just their main ones, like Doctor Doom, Submariner, Mole Man. Like, that's pretty early on if you think about their villain set.
Yeah.
It wasn't, Galactus wasn't there. Nothing like that. Nothing super, spacey or anything. So, yeah. I thought it was pretty good for what it is. So, for like a little one-off series. So, what would you give that one? Would you rate it?
I liked it. I mean, like you said, I'm a bigger Fantastic Four fan because I did almost the whole entire run of Ultimates and
Ultimate Fantastic Four. Ultimates is its own series.
yes, Ultimate Fantastic Four, and I liked a lot of the spinoffs from that too. And then I've read some of the first Fantastic Four as well because I've had a cool statue of them fighting the first issue of Mole Man when the big giant one comes out of the ground. So
you've read the old stuff?
I've read some.
Oh,
of that,
good God!
And it is
impossible to
and
read,
boring and drawn out.
Okay, the Kirby art is fantastic.
Yes, that's why you like it.
The page of Stan Lee writing on top of every panel. I'm like, dude, we know. It's like, I don't know for the listener. The way they used to write comics in the 60s or even up until the 80s, I think, was very much like, there's a panel in front of you that has exactly what's going on. Like it's the Thing punching someone in the face. It's like, then the Thing punched someone in the face and said, and then you just see a word bubble on next to all the dialogue or all the narration that the narrator says. It's clobbering time. And then in the background, you can kind of see the Thing punching something because there was so little panel of, art you could see. Because I don't know, they needed to explain everything that was going on in the panels.
And that's why when you look back at comic book culture and history, people are like, oh man, do you remember that episode or that specific comic? Yeah, the cover art. It was beautiful. Yeah. And that's the only art they talk about in the book.
Exactly. They're like, oh man, that Kirby cover was fantastic. Oh, that makes sense because the rest of it you couldn't see because of word balloons and narration on top of it, or like the writer's narration. So, yeah, it's pretty hard to get through some of that early stuff. I was like, I'm going to read all this early Fantastic Four, and I couldn't. I got past like the second issue maybe. I was like, nope, I'm done. I'll read even older stuff just for funsies sometimes, but like not written by Stan Lee. And there's still a little bit of, it's still like that, but it's depending on who the writer is, they might let some of the artwork show itself, It's kind of like watching a movie where there's a narrator saying everything that you're seeing on the screen.
Yeah. And don't get us wrong, we're not knocking Stan Lee. Stan Lee was an amazing human being.
God bless Stan Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
He, had his methods of writing and how that worked with the artists and whatnot. But
he still told the story. So
yeah,
that's where the lore comes from.
He co-created all of our favorite characters from the 60s. So you got to give him that, and you got to give like his enthusiasm for the medium and ambassadorship of to like the rest of the world. Him being in every Marvel movie now was like all the fans that don't even fucking read comics were like, it's Stan Lee. I'm like, why do you care? Like you don't read comics. But they're like, oh no, his first appearance was in Spider-Man or whatever, and then you're like, okay, oh right, I guess you know all the movies, right? But and don't get me wrong, all you Marvel movie fans, you're fine Marvel fans too. Just different universe.
I am just as much a fan of the movies as the comics.
Different shows. Yeah. I prefer to read the comics personally. Movies are fun. You get to see some of your favorite storylines kind of acted out in front of you, which is cool. But those stories came from a great source material, and I like the source material more personally. Generally. Sometimes the movies are better, depending on what it is.
There are a lot of stories in the comics that I like that they build upon. Like I love the Captain America Winter Soldier story.
Yeah.
That is one of the best I've ever read. And the movie is good, but it wasn't that exact.
The movie has enough of what's in the comic that you're like, this is really cool. They didn't change much stuff. It's kind of like, it's not to this degree, but it's kind of like the Hellblazer movie. The Constantine movie, you're like, there's some really cool shit in this. And then some stuff you're like, what? But that's not what it's. I mean, it's not quite like that where you're like there's cool stuff in this, and then there's like movie stuff like big action scene or whatever. Like that's one page in a comic book as opposed to a 20-minute car chase or whatever. So and that's cool for a movie, but you don't want to see 20 pages of a car driving, right?
Pages.
So they move the story along a little bit different, or it might be more like the Winter Soldier stuff was more espionage, like spy stuff, as opposed to the movie had some of that, but it was more like, Black Panther and Winter Soldier and who is he and that kind of stuff. So the movies have their place, and I enjoy all of it. But if you are just a movie fan of Marvel or any comic book movies, I encourage you to read some good storylines. And if you want any recommendations, let us know. Email us. Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word, @gmail.com. But yeah, we love the movies, but we also like the comics. So
yeah. Or hit us up on one of our social media accounts as well. I mean, we can shoot you back something quick on Twitter or Facebook. So
yeah.
But yeah, that's why we do this, is we love comics in all of their forms. And
yes.
Anyway, so let's go.
Yeah.
Let me get back to saying that this specific Fantastic Four 1, 2, 3, 4 was good. It was solid, and I would say it's not my favorite Fantastic Four, but it was good, and I like it had like a Rogues Gallery feel to it. So I would say I would probably give this 7.
Okay, that's fair. I would give it like a 6.5, only because.
Are we doing halves?
I do halves. All right, John. Stop asking you. We already had this argument. I'm doing halves. All right. So, but yeah, okay, 6 or 7. I can't say half apparently. John is a half Nazi. So, but yeah. So
throw it around the Nazi word.
Hey, well, everybody says it now. You're a Nazi, John. So anyway, yeah. So like for me, this was solid. But it was still like it was solid once I understood where we were at in the continuity of Fantastic Four. I had to like step back after reading the first issue. I'm like, what? Like, why is everybody acting like this? It felt weird. And then I had to realize, oh, this is supposed to be, earlier than, 2000. Fantastic. This is supposed to be at least first 10 years, or at most first 10 years, at least, the first year of the Fantastic Four's like storyline. So once I got that, then it was like, okay, I get it. And Grant Morrison always pushes the boundaries, whether you liked it a bunch or you were confused or whatever. He always makes you think, and it's interesting. So that's why, I would give it a 6 because you can't just drop someone who doesn't know anything about. You can't be like, here, read this. You've never read Fantastic Four before. You can, but they'd have to really like. Okay, hold on a second. Like, I'm dropped into the middle of this storyline. Who's what and what's going on and what's their backstory and stuff. This kind of assumes you know that. So, like I said, that's very kind of un-Marvel for what it is, but that's very Grant Morrison-ish. So, that's where you're going to get with him. And sometimes it's like amazing, and sometimes it's a little jarring. And this was on the jarring end for me. Even as a Fantastic Four fan, because I haven't read Fantastic Four in so long. But yeah, so I'm going to give it a 6. John gives it a 7. And I believe that is it for this episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Well, folks, hope you enjoyed that episode.
If you did, and you'd like to follow us on social media, our Facebook is Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, and our Instagram is @Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word.
And be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more recommendations to add to your weekly pull list.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.